The Hakkoda Mountains Disaster, which occurred in Japan in 1902, stands as one of the deadliest mountain tragedies in human history. A combination of extreme weather conditions, poor preparation, and miscommunication led to the deaths of 199 soldiers in a single military training exercise. This harrowing event offers a grim reminder of nature's unforgiving power and the consequences of human error. Below, we will explore the historical context, the sequence of events, the mistakes that compounded the tragedy, and the long-lasting impact of this disaster. Historical context. At the turn of the 20th century, Japan was rapidly modernizing its military following the Meiji Restoration of 1868. As the nation sought to compete with Western powers, it prioritized training its army to operate in harsh environments. One key focus was preparing soldiers for cold weather combat, particularly in light of potential conflicts with neighboring Russia, a country with vast, frigid territories. The Hakkoda Mountains, located in Aomori Prefecture in northern Honshu, Japan's main island, were identified as an ideal location for winter training exercises. These mountains are known for their heavy snowfall and icy conditions, which make them a natural testing ground for winter warfare. However, their beauty hides a deadly truth. The Hakkoda Mountains can be treacherous, even for the most experienced mountaineers. In January 1902, the 5th Infantry Regiment of the Imperial Japanese Army, consisting of over 200 men, was tasked with completing a winter march from the town of Aomori to Tashiro Hot Springs, a distance of approximately 20 kilometers, 12 miles. What was intended to be a routine training exercise turned into a tragic lesson in the dangers of underestimating nature. The disaster unfolds. The initial plan. The training exercise was planned as a straightforward march through the snow-covered Hakkoda Mountains. The soldiers were to traverse a designated route over the course of 2 days, carrying full equipment and supplies to simulate wartime conditions. While the route itself was challenging, it was deemed manageable with proper preparation. Major Yamaguchi, who was in charge of the regiment, underestimated the severity of the conditions. Despite warnings from local guides and weather forecasters about an incoming blizzard, he decided to proceed as scheduled. This decision would prove to be a fatal mistake. Entering the mountains on January 23, 1902, the regiment began its march. The men, clad in inadequate clothing and carrying heavy packs, faced biting cold and strong winds from the outset. As they ascended into the mountains, the weather rapidly deteriorated. Temperatures plummeted to -20 degrees Celsius, -4 degrees Fahrenheit, and blinding snow made visibility almost non-existent. The regiment quickly became disoriented. Maps of the area were inaccurate, and the soldiers lacked sufficient knowledge of the terrain. Compounding these issues, Major Yamaguchi refused to turn back, believing that pushing forward was the best course of action. As the blizzard intensified, the unit became scattered, with smaller groups breaking away from the main body in an attempt to find shelter. Tragedy strikes. The soldiers' struggles were amplified by their lack of proper winter gear. Frostbite set in quickly, and exhaustion sapped their strength. Many men collapsed in the snow, unable to continue. Those who managed to keep moving often found themselves walking in circles due to the disorienting conditions. Some groups attempted to dig makeshift snow shelters to wait out the storm, but the freezing temperatures and lack of adequate supplies made survival nearly impossible. Others wandered aimlessly, hoping to stumble upon a village or a safe path out of the mountains. By January 24, the situation had spiraled out of control. Rescue efforts were hindered by the same severe weather that had trapped the soldiers. When the storm finally subsided, the true extent of the tragedy became apparent. Out of the 210 soldiers who had embarked on the march, 199 perished. Most of the bodies were found frozen in the snow, scattered across the mountains. Factors contributing to the disaster: poor planning and leadership. One of the primary causes of the Hakkoda Mountains disaster was the lack of adequate planning. Major Yamaguchi's decision to proceed despite warnings about the blizzard demonstrated a fatal underestimation of the risks involved. Furthermore, the soldiers were not properly equipped for the extreme conditions. Their clothing was insufficient to protect them from the cold, and their supplies were inadequate for an extended survival scenario. Lack of local knowledge. The regiment's reliance on inaccurate maps and limited understanding of the terrain played a significant role in their disorientation. Local guides, who might have been able to navigate the mountains more effectively, were not utilized. This oversight left the soldiers vulnerable to the harsh and unfamiliar environment. Severe weather conditions. The blizzard that struck the Hakkoda Mountains was one of the worst on record at the time. With winds exceeding 100 km per hour, 62 miles per hour, and temperatures plunging to dangerous lows, the soldiers were simply no match for the elements. Even experienced mountaineers would have struggled to survive under such conditions. Aftermath and legacy. The Hakkoda Mountains disaster sent shockwaves through Japan. The sheer scale of the tragedy and the loss of life prompted widespread criticism of the military's leadership and training practices. In the wake of the disaster, the Imperial Japanese Army implemented significant changes to improve the safety and preparedness of its troops. Improvements in winter training. One of the key lessons from the disaster was the importance of proper equipment and training for cold weather operations. The military began investing in better winter gear, including insulated clothing and boots designed to withstand extreme temperatures. Soldiers were also trained in survival techniques, such as building snow shelters and recognizing the signs of frostbite and hypothermia. Memorials and cultural impact. The tragedy left a lasting mark on Japanese culture. A monument was erected in the Hakkoda Mountains to honor the soldiers who lost their lives. The disaster also inspired numerous books, films, and plays, including Death March on Mount Hakkoda, Shirao Yamashi no Kouro, a detailed account written by Jiro Nida that remains a classic of Japanese literature. Modern-day lessons. The Hakkoda Mountains disaster serves as a cautionary tale for anyone venturing into extreme environments. It highlights the importance of respecting nature's power, preparing adequately for challenging conditions, and listening to expert advice. In the years since the tragedy, mountaineering organizations and outdoor enthusiasts have drawn on its lessons to promote safety and awareness. Conclusion. The Hakkoda Mountains disaster of 1902 remains one of the deadliest mountain tragedies in history. It was a perfect storm of human error and natural fury, claiming the lives of 199 soldiers who set out on what should have been a routine training exercise. While the tragedy exposed critical flaws in military planning and preparedness, it also paved the way for important improvements in safety and training. Over a century later, the disaster continues to resonate as a sobering reminder of the need for humility and caution in the face of nature's immense power.